say they've actually made a profit this year on Vauxhall Opel.
Holy cow.
They've turned a whole...
In 1 year?
They lost...
It's madness. We welcome Joseph of Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. We're stood next to the 2019 Mark 7 Astra, but this is a facelift, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. This has a brand new engine in it. This is a 1.2 Elite Nav, priced around £26,000, with the 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which has been developed just for this car.
And it's just Vauxhall as well, isn't it? It's not even got any of the PSA intervention yet, because this was developed for this car.
Yes, it was. Obviously, Vauxhall Opel. If you buy a diesel one of these, a new 1.5 diesel, that is a PSA engine. But these 3-cylinder turbo units are just for this car.
The sad thing is, the likelihood is this is the last time we'll see it, because it'll all be then going into PSA. And this fabulous engine, that, believe it or not, in this 145 brake horsepower model, will do 137 miles an hour with a 1.2 3-cylinder. Is that even real?
Yes, it looks a bit lost in the engine bay, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it's like a baby engine. I can't believe it. Driving at 70 miles an hour with revs of around 1750.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be looking at the history of the Astra. It's 40 years old this year. With that said, you're going to be talking about some of the exterior styling.
I am.
I'll be looking at the interior. Then you're going to be driving it.
Yeah, well, I'll be looking at some of the changes as well, because it may seem very similar to the earlier one, but it's considerably lighter. It's got some styling tweaks as well, and well, there's quite a bit under the bonnet as well that wasn't in the previous one, isn't it?
That's right. Compared with the Astra J, this is a very different type of car, but it does look fairly similar.
Now, the new Astra may not seem that different to the original Mark 7. This is the facelift, and yeah, aesthetically, not that much has changed. If we walk around the front, the only differences I can actually see is there's no LED beam under here, and the style is slightly different. And then you've got the grille. It's got an extra bar, and this is slightly different again. But I think that's about it. Most of the things that make this different to the original Astra K are things like weight reduction. It's considerably lighter. It also has some trickery behind the grille that shuts flaps and reduces CO2. It's also far more efficient because they've reduced drag as well. As we mentioned, the Astra's been around for 40 years. And the interesting thing about it, I've driven the early Mark IIs probably in the 90s. And this is as engaging. The only difference is it doesn't have the wallow that the earlier ones did. I remember following one in my Mark II Golf GTI, and it was 5 up. And when it was going over bumps, you could see it lifting. I mean, the whole thing was like this. It was an extremely quick car and handled well. But by today's comparison, this is far and far above. It really is. It's very engaging. It looks cool. And it pays homage to the earlier Astra. It really does. The thing about the Astra is you just look at the panels and the bumper and everything's smoothed off. Look, no body line here. You just got this ridge and then a smooth surface and then the arch. An Elite logo there. On this car you get lots of chrome, gloss, no power folding door mirrors. I don't know if I expected them or not. They're electrically adjusted and you can get options too. The format of the Astra really works. It's like the Focus. It's a very good looking car as a 4-door. Not many cars, in my opinion, can carry it off. They tried it with the Mark II Golf, and okay, a lot of people like more doors, whereas I think the 3-door looks far more sleek. It's an interesting move to get rid of a complete body style, so the 3-door has gone now, which is quite sad, because the GTC was a very good looking car. I remember racing one of those in the Golf one. That was an interesting challenge from the lights, it really was. It was amazing how it performed. It's the same with the VXRs. Any VXR from Vauxhall has got some ridiculous brake horsepower, usually over 200 brake, and when you see them, they can really perform. They look the part as well. So, end of an era to get rid of the 3-door, to be honest. Executive styling with the chrome that runs along the roofline, black B-pillars, colour-coded door handles, and some rather snazzy 17-inch alloy wheels. Now, they've not got low profiles, they've kind of got in between, but that means you get comfort as well as engagement. The one thing I've noticed about this car and newer cars in general is rear lenses wrap far more around the side of the vehicle than they used to. Old things like Sierras, they used to literally end about here. But it's all to do with the design line and having the body line that goes and flows into the rear lens. Combine that with this gloss C-pillar and a rear spoiler, and you've got a very appealing look. The one thing that I miss off the Astra is a big exhaust. There's one somewhere, but you can't see it. Nice high level spoiler with a brake light. Here is where you release the boot. I love the sculpture on these rear lenses. You're reminded it's the Astra, but that's it for identifying marks. There's nothing about engine size, there's nothing about trim. It just merely says Astra. When it comes to manoeuvring, you've got no reversing camera, you can get it as an option, but you've got parking sensors front and back.
Accessing the Astra K is very easy. I'm not going to race right height, this isn't a Mocha X or anything like that, but it's pretty straightforward nevertheless. This car's a standard ride height, unlike say a crossover like a Grand X. This car's got a conventional key, which I prefer. Immediately you're greeted with this lovely leather-wrapped steering wheel. One of the main things that you'll notice if you're changing from the Astra J to the Astra K is the steering wheel. This is completely different. It's got some lovely cruise control functions here. We've also got the telephone switch there. We've got the volume control for the stereo right there, and also these controls here are for the central digital display in the middle of the dials. This is similar to say an Audi virtual cockpit. It's quite a large one. You can have sat nav directions in here, and this car's actually got a digital speedometer, which is quite nice. You can also see the All Life, that's similar to the Astra J and the Chevrolet Cruze. Again, if you're an Astra J owner, you'll notice the number of buttons in the centre of the dashboard has been massively reduced. We've also got this very clear and easy to operate central touchscreen. You can have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto integrated into here. This being the Elite Nav means you've got navigation as standard too. The buttons here, it's so different from an Astra J, I can't tell you. It's so much easier to operate. We've also got, and this is different from other PSA products, separate controls for the heating and ventilation system. Dual zone climate control in this particular car, operated by these knobs here and these switches. There's also heated seats for the front and the back, a heated steering wheel, and a front heated windscreen. The heated front windscreen is an option. One thing I have noticed is this hazard light switch, which is in a normal sort of place, but it is quite small, so I'm sure you get used to this car quite quickly, but that is just something to be aware of. The controls for the lane keeping assist are down here, along with start stop, traction control and the front and rear parking sensors. This is the 6-speed manual gearbox. It looks very similar to the lever from an Astra J actually. This particular car has front and rear parking sensors, as you can see from this button. That is an optional extra. The handbrake here is an electronic parking brake, although it's quite easy to operate and disengages automatically. The Astra J, some models came with a normal handbrake and some came with an electronic parking brake. One thing I really like about this car is the way in which the controls on the driver's door are logically laid out. The door locking buttons are up here, the electric mirror controls are here. That's different from on an Astra J. These electric window switches though look very, very similar to my Chevrolet Cruze that I used to have. If you're familiar with an Astra J, then you'll find the aux input is in the same place. It's inside the central storage cubby, along with a USB port. That actually an Astra J would have probably been here. There's a second USB port too, and the SD card for the sat nav is actually located there too. If I open the glove box, you'll see that it's absolutely enormous in this car, and it's full of the Planet Auto road trip snacks, in this case some wine gums. The dashboard itself has nice soft touch material, as do the door tops, which is a really good feature. This car's got twin front, side and curtain airbags, 6 in total, and I believe this is a 5-star Euro NCAP car too, which is very reassuring. Let's see how the back seats differ to those in the Astra J. First thing you'll notice is that the door handle is completely different from that on the Astra J and the Chevrolet Cruze. Door opens nice and wide, easy to get in. Now this seat is set for Ben, and he's 6'3", so and I fit in just fine. I'm 5'11". Plenty of knee room. Headroom is pretty good actually as well. This is actually better than on a J. One thing though that is exactly the same is this small rear window that's divided in two. Just bear in mind that if you do have children, you might find it a little bit dark in the back. However, if they've got nice electronic devices, you'll find there's plenty of space for charging them, because there's not one but two rear USB ports. Never could get those in an Astra J. It's also got seat heating in the back, which is brilliant. This being the Elite Nav model, we've got this leatherette upholstery as well, which is really comfortable. We've got this nice armrest in the middle of here. There's no cup holders in there. In fact, there's no cup holders in the back of the car at all. I don't know why. You can put obviously something in the door bins though. If you want to fold the seat, that's reasonably straightforward, although you've got to move the seat belt out of the way. There's nowhere to clip that in. The Isofix covers though are a wonderful Teutonic design. These Isofix covers will not come off, they're just hinged, which is brilliant. We've got these nice door handles. This isn't soft touch plastics in here, this is hard, but they're good quality. And yes, as I said, the door bins are pretty big, so you put the bottles in there, wouldn't you? As I mentioned before, there's a lot more room in the back of here than in Astra J, although the windows are quite small, so it might be a bit dark in here if you have a dark coloured headliner. The seats themselves are very comfortable. It's amazing how they managed to fit more space in the cabin in a smaller car. That's right, the Astra K is a smaller car by its overall footprint than the Astra J. There's more interior space, which is very clever indeed. Two people will be very comfortable in the back of here, three people at a pinch for a shorter journey. Of course, with the twin USB ports and the seat heating in the back, it'll make it very comfortable for two people, even on the longest of journeys. One thing you'll notice immediately about the back of this car compared with an Astra J is these tail lights are a lot smaller. Opening the boot can either be done with the key or just by lifting the Vauxhall badge here. The boot floor is not flush. The boot lip isn't too bad in this car actually. There is no movable boot floor, so this is the height that you get. It's nothing like as bad as on my Seat Toledo though. If you lift up the carpet here, you can see we've actually got a spare wheel. It's only a space saver, but it's really good to see one of those. I'm a big fan of that. You've also got some storage points in the bottom there. There's no 12-volt socket in the boot, which I think is an interesting omission, but there are these nice tie-down hooks here, and there's metal points for tethering there too. On an Astra J, on the higher trim models, you actually got a movable boot floor. This car, as far as I'm aware, you can't get one. The size though, actually, this boot's a lot better. It's a lot sort of longer, and I'm not sure if it's necessarily deeper, but you can fit more things in here than you would do in the old model. Ben, once we get out of this hotel car park, what is the Astra K facelift like to drive? There's the engine noise.
Welcome to the 3-cylinder Astra. This is the Mark 7 and it's quite fun.
I thought you'd say that. So we have in this car a 1.2 petrol engine. It's turbocharged, it's a 3-cylinder unit, and it develops 145 horsepower. You can also get this engine in 110 and 130 horsepower versions. If you want an automatic, you can get a 1.4 engine, have the same power as this one, 145 horsepower.
That's CVT and 9-speed, isn't it?
It is a CVT gearbox, yes. We do like manuals. Before the facelift has just occurred, it's worth bearing in mind that the engines were completely different. At the bottom of the range was a 1.4 non-turbo engine with 100 horsepower. Then there's a one that you'll remember from your Corsa review. It was a bit different in that one. I think it was 90 horsepower in the Corsa. This was 105 in the Astra. It was a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo General Motors engine. It's also the same as in the MG ZS Automatic. Then you had,
of course, the GM engine.
Yeah. And then you had two 1.4s with 120, 150 horsepower. And then the one which you'll remember most of all, Ben, a 1.6 turbo with 200 horsepower.
I'd have loved to have driven that.
Yes, there were also 1.6 diesels with 110 136, 160 horsepower. There's a bi-turbo version to 160. The diesels with the facelift are the 1.5 engine from loads of Peugeots and Citroens.
Sorry, Joseph, probably pinned you in the seat then.
Yeah, it's not very sort of economical driving there. But the new diesel engine in this facelifted Astra K.
Ooh, Polo bread van.
Oh yes, indeed, a Mach 2 Polo. I have one of those.
Slammed as well.
Yeah, I have one of those on my channel later this month.
Yes. You'll have a G40.
G40 supercharged. The 1.5 Peugeot Citroen unit, PSA unit, which is the only bit of the car that is PSA. It's only available in this new model, and there's two power outputs, 105, 122 horsepower. Perfect for you know, higher mileage drivers. One of the things that Ben's been finding on your journeys in the Astra K is that the car drives simply well. Now, you see them everywhere.
You do?
You see them, you know, just as disposable street furniture. The Astra Gs
What a term!
the Astra Gs and Astra Hs in particular are just around everywhere, and they make fantastic second-hand bargains.
They do. Saying that, this starts at around 19,000, which I think is good value for a five-door, family car.
Yeah, and if you're, you know, go down to your local Vauxhall dealership and you want a pre-facelift car with the engines that we've mentioned before, then obviously they'll be available at a healthy discount.
Yes.
So yes, we've got plenty of power to get out of that
bit
junction,
of a spin.
Get out of the junction nice and safely.
Oh, it is indicating.
Yes. Unlike on an Astra H, Ben, you don't have one-touch indicators anymore.
Ah, right, okay.
It's a bit of a relief. I never was a fan of those. So yes, this Mark 7 Astra, been going for 40 years, and some of them are still built in Ellesmere Port, some of them are still built where they originally were back in 1979.
See how it corners, shall we, around a roundabout?
Yeah. As I said, you know, Astras are everywhere, and that's a good reason for that, because they are superb cars. It's just they're often not thought of particularly desirable or sporty cars. But as Ben is finding out with his exuberant driving, and
nicely put.
That they do handle very well indeed. They are nice to drive. Obviously, you've got an electric power steering setup in this car, but that makes it very, very easy to park and manoeuvre. Particularly
quite a short shift as well, isn't it? If you look at it, it's not the highest, biggest gearbox in the world. It's not notchy either. It's very smooth. Did you notice that whilst in the car park?
I did.
Whoa, greasy roundabout.
Well, yeah, greasy roundabout alert. I'm glad we've got traction control and we've got all these safety features in the car. It
didn't feel unhinged though, did it?
No, it didn't at all. Brilliant. We've got lane keeping assist. We've got lane departure warning. We haven't got blind spot monitoring in this particular car, but we do have 6 airbags, and this car, I believe, is a Euro NCAP 5-star safety rating.
Yes, and it can also detect the car in front as well. You've got some, I think it's called distance or something.
There is normal cruise control, obviously. Ben's enjoying those greasy roundabouts there. Might want to just back off, accelerate slightly.
I was going to say, it's quite interesting though.
It is, yeah.
I keep forgetting, that's the thing about this car. It's a 1.2 3-cylinder.
Yeah, I know.
But it is so quick.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get the engine in 110, 130 power output as well. I'd probably just go for one of those lower ones, because
I would not.
You know how I drive, Ben. You know, it's a lot more, shall we say, moderate than.
Saying that though, you still get. Let's see what our MPG is currently.
The WLTP figures of this car say that it develops around 50 miles per gallon. You're getting about 44.
Yes, but when it arrived, it was on 51.
Yeah,
I just knew damn well I wouldn't keep it at that.
That's the Planet Auto effect, isn't it, on the economy? But most of the people won't, I'd say, drive an Astra quite like that, because unless you're going for...
Unless they previously owned a GTC.
Yeah, the VXR, really.
Yeah, or any of them.
Yeah, I know, the VXR is
The thing is, the GTC
crazy.
was more reachable for a lot of people, whereas the VXR's insurance-wise, younger drivers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Planet Auto Adventures, Ben.
This is where the military come out and go, why are you hooning down here in an Astra?
Look, it's a Sub 100 Classic. Look at that. Sub 100 Classic.
You can just about see it.
Yeah.
I tell you what I did pass on the motorway in this.
Oh, what's that?
A Jensen Interceptor.
Oh, very nice.
I know the chances of seeing one of those in winter on the M6. Quite strange. I think it's
Yeah.
an M40 actually.
Yeah, exactly. They're not the most common cars I've ever come across, I must say.
No.
Just test for turning circle. Oh, it's pretty good actually. It's not a bad turning circle. Just make sure there's nothing coming from the right. And off we go again. I like that sort of 3-cylinder thrum you get in this car.
Yeah. But have you noticed when you're at a set of traffic lights, it's whisper quiet?
Yeah, I mean they used to call the 1.6 diesel engine in this car the whisper diesels, and I wouldn't say they're that quiet. They are quite quiet for a diesel, but this is nice and refined.
It is.
If you're not absolutely hooning it,
Yes.
it's just very nice and refined, and that's a way that I find with these small 3-cylinder turbo engines. Nice and quiet unless you need them to be. Nice and noisy if you put your foot down.
Well, that's it. It's nice and noisy. You can throw it around and it'll just go around corners.
Just go round and round about
They're
again.
very well set up, aren't they?
Yes, the speedometer in this car goes up to 170 miles per hour. There is no VXR version of the K. The largest horsepower output in it was the 200 brake horsepower 1.6 turbo pre-facelift car that wasn't badged as a VXR or anything. I think you get an SRI trim.
Feel that for a second gear.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm very pleased. The brakes are good, Ben. That's all I can say.
I don't remember what happened last time we came around here in May.
Well, we're no danger of that because I can't see anybody coming out, so we're okay, Ben. Is the way in which Astra fits into Vauxhall's range now. They have the Grandland X and the Crossland X. Obviously, you've had the Grandland X yourself.
I have.
And that one is not based on a Vauxhall platform.
No.
Nothing to do with General Motors at all. The engines are also PSA engines, although the interior does remind you a bit of this, doesn't it? It does look a bit like this.
It's the same with the Insignia, isn't it?
Yeah,
They've all got that kind of unique style. The thing about a Vauxhall as well is they seem to have always maintained the same font with the dials.
Yeah, those do remind me of an Astra J.
Yeah, they also remind me of the Nova SR.
We've got a lot of knowledge which is only comes out in these situations about older cars from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But yes, back in the day, we're talking the time of the Astra Mark II, Mark III.
I was going to say Daniel's car was an 85, which is a C.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very early Mark II Astra. The Astra was... Oh, sorry, Nova. The Astra in the 80s and 90s was comfortably in the top 10 bestsellers every year.
I'm not surprised.
These days, actually, the Mocha outsells it, and it's strange to think the Mocha, which is also based on General Motors platform, it was a similar platform to the Vauxhall Viva that's also just been discontinued, although much more powerful engines and option of 4-wheel drive.
Well, it's more an SUV market now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The Mocha's actually now been...
Best selling thing in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been dropped actually now, the Mocha, because I imagine because of the platform against the
Crossland and the Grandland.
Yeah, and they both use Peugeot Citroën platforms and PSA engines. The Mocha did not. It used only General Motors engines, similar to the Corsa and that, but they sold loads of them. If you want to look at, say, I don't know, a Crossland X in comparison with this, I think the prices of these are quite comparable, and this will drive a bit better because it hasn't got a raised right height. As Ben is finding out all the time with his roundabout manoeuvres where we are in Farnborough, one of the places that has
handles well.
full
It
of
feels like
roundabouts.
it's on rails.
So yeah, if
There's no turbo lag either, if you've noticed.
Bear in mind, of Crossland X is front wheel drive only, which is what the Astra is.
Yeah.
It's just worth bearing in mind, just if you go to the showroom and you're looking at a Crossland X, why not look at an Astra as well?
Yeah.
Others you could look at other manufacturers: Kia Ceed, Ford Focus, Volkswagen Golf, Seat Leon. Bearing in mind as well, you can get the Astra in estate form. You can still get that. You can't get the 3-door GTC anymore.
No, shame.
The Astra Saloon, that was not sold in this country after the Astra G. Most people see it's like a high car, or it's just a...
We just out accelerated a C-Class Mercedes.
Yes, I know.
Who tried to cut in front of us.
As Ben says, it's amazing, these sort of modern 1 litre and 1.2 turbo engines and what they'll do.
People underestimate them, don't they? They really do.
So we've got plenty of options for the K. I mean, they have been pared down a little bit, and this new engine, which was developed just for this car,
and sadly will die with this car.
Yeah, it probably will, because the Astra, I think, will go onto a PSA platform from about 2021, 2022.
Exactly. So that's when we're expecting to see the new Astra, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the likelihood is it'll have an EV powertrain as well.
That's just the way that things are going. You've got to get those average CO2 figures down.
Yeah. Thing is, I'm happy with 43 the way I drive.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think you've done pretty well. And you know, you've given this car a thorough test, haven't you? You've driven it in all sort of situations, all the way down from the Lake District.
I mean, look, the thing about it is, if you floor it off from a junction, you will get wheel spin.
You will.
But you do need to, because it's a 3-cylinder, give it a bit of power so it can pull away.
Yeah.
But handling-wise, I mean, just look at it.
It feels good. I mean, it's just worth bearing in mind the history of the car. There's a direct descendant, actually, of not just the Vauxhall Viva, but also the Opel Kadett. They were both introduced in 1963, and the ranges were sort of aligned. Starting off with the Chevette, which is very similar to the Opel Kadett C.
Ooh, the HSR.
Yeah, the HSR was crazy. that was pretty leery. Rear-wheel drive in a Chevette, and the Kadett C. They were very similar to Kadett C and the Chevette, but based on what's called the General Motors T-Car platform. And then they took it a step further by basically making the Opel Kadett D in the Vauxhall Astra that came out in '79 virtually the same. The Astra was interesting initially because although some of them were hatchbacks, some were actually saloons as well, with the same body shape. Then the Mark II came out, and that's where people were really starting to buy them up. Although the Mark IIs had terrible security, and you know, you could steal those pretty easily.
The Golf GTIs.
As Ben was saying, watching Road Wars recently, and there's always a Mark II because they had terrible security. This security of this car is excellent, though. You know, there's no way that you're gonna be able to steal this in the same way you could a Mark II.
It's got a key, hasn't it?
Yeah. I don't know, other models of the Astra have keyless entry. This one doesn't. I personally prefer not to have keyless entry, but just my preference. But yes, I think this is a fantastic car. Wouldn't you agree, Ben?
Yeah, certainly. I love it. On a country road, it's so engaged. It feels connected to the road, but you can slide it around, not raucously, if that makes sense. It goes where you point it. The steering's very direct as well. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have said the steering's light. Would you call the steering light?
I find the steering in modern cars very light, personally, all the time.
But oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't.
The Astra J had incredibly light steering. So that's it, viewers. We are back at our destination.
Yeah.
And that was a drive in the 2019 Vauxhall Astra K 1.2 Elite Nav.
Yes. This one retails for £26,210.
But obviously this one's got a few optional extras fitted.
It has. It's got parking options. It's got, I think, the space saver's an option, and I know for a fact that the front windscreen is as well.